Yeah, this had a very mid 90s post that sort of adult rock sound that was post grunge, sort of 94 to 96. And all these bands came to
What's in
mind.
between 94 and 96?
95. Is that
There you go.
okay, cool. Hello, dudes and dudettes. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. I'm Andy, and that is John, and we are going to do what we always do: try and take over the world. Now, we're going to cover some music. Yes, in particular, a track that John's going to offer up for me to go off and listen to. But in order to do that, I'm going to need to know the artist and the tune. John?
So demanding.
Yes,
So,
a
so
needy
got a
creature.
band, got a band by the name of Gene.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's the start I wanted.
Okay.
So this song is called "Truth Rest Your Head."
Okay. All right. Well, I am somewhat familiar with the truth, but not this track nor Gene. So,
You want the truth? You can't handle the truth.
there
Thank
we go.
you.
Love a good Sorkin quote. Okay, cool. Well, let me go off, check this thing out, and I'll come back and let you know what I think. It's pretty.
I've been lazy. I've not waited for you. Nature's hasty. Lord knows so am I.
Really pretty guitar.
6 months inside Wandsworth's finest landmark. Patience has died. There's guilt now hates best son.
Okay.
For every MP, all their strong and kind words can't be guilty, but you and I both know. Truth, rest your head. There is more than a life at stake here for me. You die.
This bit somehow sounds familiar to me. I don't know why. Maybe it just sounds like sort of mid 90s rock to me. Like there are some bands, I don't know, like I'm thinking of maybe like a Collective Soul, or there's sort of those more mature sounding 90s rock bands that sort of came after grunge. But this is like his voice coupled with what that guitar was doing in the beginning was really pretty and had almost this jazzy type, loungy type element to it. Um, yeah, yeah, and the breaks and the kickoffs and all this stuff. I'm wondering how many guitars are being used in here because I'm definitely hearing electric guitar, but there's also a strum that sounds undeniably acoustic. That's happening as well. Yeah, I so far so good. I'd love to see where it goes from here. How many more of these stops and changes are we going to experience?
Tonight, so don't involve me in your plans when the chat goes
Tambourine.
back and for me. You died tonight.
Okay. melody on the guitar.
So true, rest your head. There is more than a life at stake here for me. You die tonight. So don't involve me in your plans when the chance shows beckon for me. You die tonight.
Nice. That guitar is nice.
So true, rest your head. There is
Keys.
more than a life at stake here for me. You die tonight. So don't involve me in your plans when the money beckons for me. You die tonight.
That piano's great. That guitar, so good. Mm. Yeah, it's a completely fading out. Yeah, that was really interesting song. The lyrical content was also very interesting. I loved the piano, loved all the guitar work that was happening in there. His voice really matched well with all of it too. It had this like wavering quality to it that had some kind of like emotional heft to it. And there were allusions to like death or dying, and I don't know. I also thought I heard like an allusion to like an MP and something about chat shows. I don't know. I'm really interested to know what this song is about. Um, but the piano, the guitar, the even the bass work as it kind of like really fully formed, became really interesting and just great sounding to these ears. Um, yeah, I don't know what this song is about, but I'd love to have John fill me in. But this is the first time I'm ever hearing of or from Gene, and I like what they had to say. I just love to know. I like what they had to say musically. I'm confused, but in a curious way about what the lyrical content was, illustrating. And I would imagine John can help me figure that out. But yeah, great instrumentation, really good vocals that matched the sound and the mood of the song. Let's get back to John and chop this one up.
Jossie's Giants, he's back. So, Gene, truth rest your head. What are your words?
First of all, American or English or something else entirely.
British.
Okay, British. Okay, got you. Um,
I say that because one of them's Welsh.
okay, fair. Cover all your bases. Yeah, this had a very mid 90s post that sort of adult rock sound that was post grunge, sort of 94 to 96, and all these bands came to
What's in
mind.
between 94 and 96?
95. Is
There
that
you go.
okay, cool. Because yeah, this had like, I think I said Collective Soul in the reaction, but really upon reflecting on it, I think it reminded me a little bit when the song sort of took form, the second half of it, when it was fully formed, kind of reminded me of some Gin Blossoms, especially in the guitar work. So it sort of sounded so familiar to me that I was kind of expecting you to say that they were an American band, that had somehow not landed on my radar, but that's interesting. So yeah, it starts off with this really pretty and gentle chord movement on the guitar. And then it's soon joined by these equally gentle vocals by the singer. And then near the 40-second mark, there's this short break before everything kind of kicks off again. But this time with more energy from these really insistent chord strikes that are separated by these gentle motifs akin to the music that was going on before that break. And this adds some really interesting variance and like kind of musical points of demarcation, if you will. It's the best way I can describe it. And after delivering the line, but you and I both know, there is yet another break, though this time the dead air is occupied by the slightest bit of gentle, almost jazzy, loungy guitar work. Then the song comes back in, and we get this great, lively acoustic guitar chord progression. And toward the end of that bit, the singer delivers the line, "You died tonight," I think is what I caught. Then a drum fill heralds in this driving up tempo portion that is carried by these pounding electric guitar chords and melody. And then he repeats the previous stanza of lyrics, and we then get this terrific guitar solo while the acoustic guitar strums away the chord progression, underpinned by some rapidly cascading tambourine work that was pretty prevalent, and some piano notes as well. Again, we get treated to what I imagine at this point is like the chorus as the piano pounds away, along with more of that great guitar work. And this continues on and on until we get like a fade out that is highlighted by this fading but still lush and emotionally evocative guitar wailing that's kind of going on there as it kind of brings us to the end. And the sound of
Always, sorry, and it always
good.
pisses me off. That does just when you get it. I'm not just, there's lots of songs, and we've done it with songs where there's a sax or something like that, and it's just fucking going, and it just fades out, and you think,
And it's perhaps the most shining part of the tune, but it's featured as a fade out. You're like, God damn it! Why don't you play this for another 20
I
seconds at
know.
full volume and then fade out? Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, JJ Cale did it in every song on Naturally. It's just get going, yeah, fade out. We've had our 2 minutes, 20 seconds fade.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
So the sound of his voice and how it almost wavers at times, along with the lyrical content that I was able to catch, gave the vocal some emotional heft and gravity. So much allusion to death and a bit about there being more than just life at stake here are just some of the examples of what I mean and how it had like some real gravity to it. Though I also found curious these other references. So there's this reference to MPs, which now knowing that they're British makes perfect sense. Um, and all their strong, like kind words and the mention of chat shows. Um, is this about a specific event or person or group of people? Because I found all of this really intriguing, but
Yeah,
no conclusions did I arrive at. So,
you will.
okay.
So I chose this song because they're an interesting band. And I think for me anyway, their peak was their debut, and then they sort of descended.
Mm.
But for many people, they were the kind of acceptable face of another band that they had constant comparisons to. And I wouldn't have expected you to pick it up, but as soon as I say it, you'll get it. But I'll leave that for now. But yeah, really interesting band, super talented. Great, just the debut album, really, wonderful stuff. And the singles that preceded this really cool as well. But they had the time and place, etc. But I just thought it'd be really interesting with someone who I presumed, and I was right, that had no sort of skin in the game, as it were, to listen to this and tell me what you think. And you got a bit of the American sound to it, which is really interesting. There is some underpinning of American sound, I think, to this. There's almost like a bit of soul-y type, even Motown-y sort of influence to some of it. And then with this indie guitar rock stuff as well. Anyway, let's get into it and then it will become clear. So formed in London in 1993 from the ashes of a previous band called Spin. And Spin is SP exclamation mark N. Terrible, terrible, terrible. So Gene were an alternative rock band. They were categorized by the UK music press as a Britpop band and were often drawn comparisons to the Smiths because of their similarities to Morrissey in the demeanor and lyrical style of lead singer Martin Rossiter. When you listen to, I was particularly like the whole album, the Smiths comparison is really strong, really strong. The guitars, some songs a bit more muscular, some of even the compositions are very Smith-like, lyrical style, content, his voice, but it's kind of seen as the acceptable side of the Smiths for people who don't like the Smiths. This album is quite often called the greatest album that the Smiths never released. So personnel: Martin Rossiter, vocals, keyboards, piano; Steve Mason, guitar; Kevin Miles, bass; and Matt James, drums and percussion. So they start off with a string of releases of singles, all of which were pretty much named either single of the week or single of the month in the UK music press. So they were, champions of this band, but at the same time trying to pigeonhole them as well. Gene then broke through with their debut album, Olympian, in 1995, which reached number 8 in the mainstream charts. All of the previous singles were number 1 in the indie charts, etc., as you can imagine. So their music was influenced by the Smiths, but also the Jam and Small Faces were name-checked by the band as well. Even the cover drew further comparisons to the Smiths because the style of it is very, Smith-like. It's still from the Ingmar Bergman film, The Seventh Seal, another sort of sunny, happy film. So some quotes here. And it's so funny because even the magazines or periodicals or websites that like them and complain about the Smith comparisons then go on to mention Smiths a lot. So God is in the TV. Quote: the much mentioned Smith influence is present in the exquisite strut of the infectious opener, which still brings to the spine when the frontman Martin Rossiter's voice goes up a key on the final chorus. Your Love It Lies is one of the many examples of their gift for fussing classy romantic verses with raw, passionate choruses, and it's followed wonderfully by the magnificent Motown/Jam flavored Truth Rest Your Head, hitting on true magic when another one of those splendid choruses arrives. Liner Best Fit said, 1995's Olympian, the band's first album, remains one of the best debuts of the decade. And Excess Noise said, the recent reissue of the debut album from the unsung Britpop heroes, Olympian, has aged so beautifully and is, without doubt, my favourite album of that genre from that era. Sure, there were always the Smiths comparisons, but they never outwardly stole from them. And on every track here, aches with the passion of love lost. Musicianship, the vocals, the lyrics, they have the lot. The best album the Smiths never released. So they could resist even their last line.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll go into okay. So a lot of the songs, some of them disguised, some of them not so disguised. Talk about sort of heartfelt struggles, particularly with sexuality. The lead singer, Mike Russell, is bisexual. So these are references to sort of restrained love and the sort of attitude, stroke legislation at the time. And this, I think, is mainly a bit about this. Just so that you know, Wandsworth's finest landmark, which they reference in this, is a prison. So you talk about sort of illegality of it. So anyway, the lyrics. I'll try and scan it as he does. I've been lazy. I've not waited for you. Nature's hasty, and Lord knows, so am I. 6 months inside Wandsworth's finest landmark. Patience has died. First guilt now hates best son. Dun, 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 dun. For every MP, all their strong and kind words, in quotes, can't be guilty, but you and I both know. The chorus. Truth, rest your head. There is more than a life at stake here. For me, you died tonight. As in, truth died.
Mhm.
So don't involve me in your plans. When the chat show beckon, for me, you died tonight. And then there's that guitar break. Dun, dun, dun. Really nice. So truth, rest your head. There is more than a life at stake here. For me, you died tonight. So don't involve me in your plans. When the chat show beckon, for me, you died tonight. So truth, rest your head. There is more than a life at stake here. For me, you died tonight. So don't involve me in your plans. When the money beckons, for me, you died tonight. 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 As it fades out. So, more Lazy Smiths comparisons. After this album, Gene released their version of Hatful of Hollow, which was called To See the Lights. Actually, should have got this out. Oh, bollocks. So there we go. Which is this one here, which is a collection of singles, B-sides, some live stuff as well. Really, really, really nice, and showcases their stuff prior to this album. But obviously the Smiths did the same thing with their session stuff on Hatful of Hollow. Really, really good album. So they did 3 more albums after this in 97, 99, and 2000 before finally splitting in 2004. Martin Rossiter released a solo album in 2012, and then he announced a one-off career-closing gig in 2019 to put a cap on his showbiz career. But it was delayed because of the COVID pandemic. I have to say, during lockdown, he did some sort of solo stuff on the keyboard on YouTube, and it went down a storm, and people loved it. And his very sort of kind and caring personality came through as well in those sort of clips. It did him no end of good, and it was just really nice to see. And I think people's almost forgotten love, particularly of this album, came back again, and they had a bit of a resurgence in people's memories. But eventually he had his farewell show in 2021. And he now works as a music. I know he lives in Brighton. I believe he works as a music teacher for the British and Irish Modern Music Institute, and he also works as an artist development officer at Access to Music, which I think is a charity sort of thing. So all round cool, good guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought this would be a really interesting one, and I'm not surprised that you didn't go, hang on a minute, this is the Smiths in disguise, because one, you're not an aficionado of the Smiths, obviously.
No.
You'd recognize Morrissey's warblings. I know that when you hear them. But once you sort of delve into them, the sort of comparisons are there. They're not as strong as some people make out, but they are definitely there.
Yeah.
And when I first heard them, I thought, oh, this is cool. This is a different take on the Smiths. And it is, because that guitar is certainly not Johnny Marr, you know? It's a different, it's almost like it comes from a glam rock bass, you know, sort of Bowie type.
Yeah, that's
guitar.
probably it for me, because for me, when I listen to the Smiths, there's 2 things that make the Smiths to the ear, and that is the yawning
Marr and
vocal
Morrissey.
of Morrissey, yes, and Johnny Marr's guitar work, which I fucking love. And while I liked the guitar the guitars in this, it didn't remind me, it didn't scream, oh, this is Johnny Marr. And the vocals, while the vocals were closer to Morrissey, I'll say, than the guitars I thought were to Marr.
Yeah.
But the delivery might have been similar, but the actual sound, like what the voice sounded like. It didn't have that polarizing kind of sound that Morrissey can have for me sometimes. And I shouldn't say that that's across the board. There are songs that exist
Yeah.
where I'm like, this is a good song, but sometimes Morrissey, maybe, and maybe it's just his natural voice, but it comes across to me so melodramatic that I can't even take it seriously, which I know, hey, come get me, I'm sorry. There are a million other, that's probably hyperbole because a million's a lot, but there are endless amounts of British, artists who I fucking adore. It's just, I don't know what it is about Morrissey's voice that I find so like polarizing, but it is what it
Well,
is.
shot not to the extent that you have, but shock horror. I feel the same way to a certain extent about Noel Gallagher's voice. I can't stand it, and I adore Liam's voice, and a lot of people who are the other way around.
Yeah, the other way around, right?
You just get it, don't you? I will say that his voice actually developed as their career went on, and he kind of found a stronger voice. But it's that softness and
Mm.
vulnerability, which I think Morrissey kind of led the way in the
Yeah,
early
okay.
80s in terms of that delivery.
Uh,
And he had these sort of veiled references to sexuality, and you're never quite sure. I think Morrissey did it amazingly well in their early part of their career in terms of you didn't know who the narrator was, whether it was male or female, and sometimes it was both.
yeah.
Really genuinely very clever stuff. He's pretty good as well, though, I have to say. And he just, he has one of those characters that you can't help but like, which may be not the case for Stephen Patrick.
Well, no, you're right
Although I
about like
speak,
technique and
I mean,
method. Go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, no, I'm just saying, and I speak as a massive, massive Smiths fan.
Yeah,
Even I could see the weakness in certain
yeah.
bits.
But you're
I
you're you're right about the technique and methodology being there and similar between this guy's voice and Morrissey. Like they don't sound the same, but some of the way that they deploy their
mm,
vocals are similar, and I can see that now that you mention it and underscore it.
yeah. But as you say, sort of songs later on from this, he becomes a lot stronger and sort of more, I won't say forceful, but in control. He
Yeah.
feels, in the way he sort of delivers his persona. But I like this sort of gentle side to it as well. It's refreshing, and the whole Britpop thing was a real sort of problem for them, and it's tricky because I don't know. Certain people looking back on it will see Britpop as kind of a high watermark in terms of recent musical output from these isles, and then other people see it as fairly shoddy, and pastiche and all sorts of other sort of negative. And I'm pretty much more towards that side of it than that side.
Uh,
There was some excellent Britpop, but there's also some terrible stuff that rode on the wave, like like sewage at a flood, Um, and they didn't really like it. But if you break it down, Britpop is, British popular music, and so that's such a massive, broad scope.
yeah, really.
Anything that sells a few copies is popular. So, it could be opera. So yeah, but I think these guys, although they shied away from it, and I would struggle to call them Britpop, this album is probably one of the shining lights of the Britpop era.
Mm.
I wouldn't say movement, but that time,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
definitely. You know, it is one of the top sort of 10 Britpop albums that's worth listening to.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, so I'd wang your way, and
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
hopefully some of our viewers will have fond memories or not. I guess we're going to find out very shortly.
Let us
Uh,
know.
I shall wrap up. Thanks for listening, Sandy. Folks out there, tell us what you think. If you do like this, please hit the like button. Drop some comments. What do you think of Gene? What do you think of this song, this album? Obviously the title track is kind of, amongst fans anyway, is legendary as a sort of this hugely emotive piece, and it really is something. I'd probably not the first track to give you off from them, but it is a great song. So yeah, please let us know what you think. Have you spent 6 months in Wandsworth Prison? If so, please drop us a line. I'd love to hear from you, and if you haven't already subscribed, please do, and help support this channel and keep us out of prison. We appreciate everybody who does support the channel. We really do. That being said, thanks again so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.